Hello, it is Sunday night again, and I am really hoping this is working because I'm doing something again a little bit different. Potentially tonight we're streaming to both YouTube and Facebook. So if this is working, please do let me know. Let me throw my head around. It seems like we have audio, which is a good start. Hello Type, how are you doing? Hello Mark, how are you doing? Yes, the audio should sound a bit better because we are on this. Now, it isn't perfect, and I will explain that a little bit more in a minute. But yes, we have a proper microphone. Now, I do have a cup of tea with me before we start. And we'll just, a new style of unboxing. We are going to unbox it. It's the right term to use, Phil. More than unbox. We're going to take a close look. We're going to take it out of its box and the board out of its box as well, because tonight I want to talk about the EagleTree Vector and really about EagleTree systems, because there was some news this week for those who haven't seen, which is that they're going to cease trading. And whilst it's very easy for people to think it's just another flight controller, there are some quite major differences between what EagleTree are doing and pretty much everyone else in the industry. And I'm going to talk about that. And actually, the more I've looked at this, the more it's a subject I wish I'd have done before now. Now, I don't know the reasons they're finishing up. I don't know why they're stopping. However, there are some decisions that they've made along the way and they've done on things that perhaps might have contributed to it. But what I want to do is give the Vector a bit of a last hurrah, because it is a fantastic flight controller and it does things differently to everyone else for a reason. They've chosen, obviously, but that's what we're going to do. So I'm just checking everything is working first before we dive into it. I'm assuming we're on YouTube. It's nice to see you, Phil. It's nice to see you. This says Facebook is working. This says I am live. So I'm just going to click on that just to check that it is. Yes, we are. We're live on Facebook as well. So I don't have the comments working as I would expect on Facebook. I've taken a trial of Caster. Well, not a trial. I've paid for the month. That's the basics of this. So it's £15, $15. So I thought I would give it a try and see how it goes. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a close look at the Vector and we're going to dive in. Now, just to share the laptop screen a minute, if you guys don't know, EagleTree Systems have obviously announced that after 18 years, they're going to stop trading. They are closing. They're going to continue to take orders via their web shop for in-stock items through September. Warranty service will continue for an extra month beyond that. But basically, they are shutting up shop. Now, it is a massive shame because they've made a lot of really good gear. I pop myself up in the corner so you can see me. You know, it isn't just about the Vector. They made an awful lot of interesting products for FPV. You know, you had their e-logger, their wireless telemetry, their micro sensors, and there was a lot of stuff for aircraft and fixed wing aircraft especially. The Guardian stabilizer was a very, very popular device. Again, lots of gear that people who used it were very big fans of, and those who'd used the systems really got into it. But the systems weren't perfect. The autopilots had some limitations as well. And one of the big limitations of these systems has been that you could not really integrate them with other stuff. Now, tonight we're going to concentrate on these three. We're going to concentrate on the Vector and the GPS. Now, the original Vector, which is this one here, has been out now for quite a long time. And one of the big interesting things about the Vector is the fact that it had a full built-in color OSD as standard. Now, whilst we have seen the likes of Betaflight and others do that, These guys did it first, and they did it way before anyone else. There were also some really interesting features on the Autopilot. The fact you could turn the camera on and off. You could turn the VTX on and off via the Autopilot. So there was inbuilt switching. It had things like UART. It had audio as well. So not only would it do video, but it would do audio too. So there were a lot of really interesting features on this Autopilot that many of the others didn't have, and much earlier, I should say, than the others even got close to doing it. Now, later on, they then brought out the Micro Vector, which was this one here. And again, this was basically a smaller version of the Vector, pretty much all of the same features out of the box, but it would still hook up with much of EagleTree systems. You could still use it. You still had the color OSD. You still had the audio features, and it was still capable of doing everything that you would expect it to do. Now, the Vector really has been designed for use with fixed wing and small drones. And when I say small, if I remember, they used to give a limit of up to about 600mm or 500mm frame. I can't remember exactly what it was over the top of my head. And whilst many people would go larger on a quad, EagleTree themselves didn't recommend it. Probably because their software wasn't tuned for it. For fixed wing, though, it was really straightforward. Now, one thing to set out on the stall on this system is it is not Autopilot based. It is not PX4 based. It is not like any of the other systems out there. And there is one main reason for this. And what we will do is we will dive in closer and have a look. 1 second. Now, if we take a look at pretty much every other Autopilot out there, whether it be a Pixhawk Cube, like this, the original Pixhawk, the NASA from DJI, something like this, which was the P2 Pro. There's a reason it's out of its packet, because that's it there, because we're going to take a closer look. And all of these products shared one major thing in common, and that was the processor type. They are all using ARM-based processors, most of them using STM32F4s, especially in the early days. Then we've gone to F7 and H7s, as I've covered in other videos as well. However, the Vector is different, and this is one of the big differences, and Mark has jumped into it. The Vector is using a PIC, and it is not ARM-based at all. It is completely separate from any of the others. Now, if you take all of the other flight controllers out there, all of the Betaflight stuff, all of the Clean Flight stuff, the Naze 32, all of these Autopilots were ARM-based. The whole industry has built upon that. However, EagleTree did it different. So, if we get in a little bit closer and have a look at one of these. This is the P2 Pro. Now, this is basically a Pixhawk, okay, is the easiest term to use for it. As you can see, this is an STM32F407, and it is pretty much a standard reference design for an Autopilot. It really is. You've got your ARM SoC. You've got your IMU sensor down here. We've got voltage regulation. We've got a little bit of I/O, but that is it. And the big thing about these Autopilots is the fact that everything is handled by the STM32. It's one of the big reasons the Autopilot industry moved over to it. And it is the fact that there's very little external I/O and hardware required. And if you go down if you look over the Autopilot, it's very basic, you know, and they're all the same. You know, yes, there's other hardware on board, but what you basically have is the STM32. You have your baro sensor, which is just down here. No, oh, sorry, that's a crystal. Sorry, the baro sensor is just here. I missed the holes. We've got our IMU, our voltage regulation, and 2 chips. And that is literally it. That's all that's in it. And all of these are the same, whether it be the NASA. I'm not going to strip the cube, but, you know, it's whilst there's a lot of other stuff in there, the basics are they're all using the STM32. However, what EagleTree did differently, and I've seen some comments, Sasha, Bill Pierre uses pick-based mix. Yeah, again, there's one or two who did. Now, the big difference with the EagleTree is what they used, and they used pick. Now, it is a pick 32, so if we pop them up there a minute, and we hop in a little bit closer, you will see we have what looks like, you know, any other normal SoC, but it is a pick 32. And the actual model on the original Vector, on the first Vector, is a PIC 32 MX695F512L, to be precise, just to get that out there. And it is an 80 megs CPU. Now, if we compare that to what we've seen on the Pixorks and the clones and all of these, for instance, you know, it's basically half the speed. It's only running at 80 megs. It has 512K of storage, 256 or 128 of K, depending on the model. One of the big downsides, though, to using PIC is that it's a very different animal altogether, and there are some benefits over the PIC compared to the ARM, and there are benefits the other way. One of the biggest benefits on the ARM is all of the I/O, and whilst PIC does have it, to get a lot of the functionality you would need, you have to go down this road. And as you can see, there is a second large SoC at the back, and this is actually a PIC DSP, and it is a separate digital signal processor, and it's handling all the I/O of the Autopilot. And what you'll notice, first of all, if you compare it to this, is the sheer amount of hardware on board, say, the Vector, compared to this, which is basically a Pixhawk. You know, we both have our SoC. We both have our IMU, and this is using an MPU 6000, and that's the IMU for it there. Let me just grab a screwdriver. It's easier to use than my finger. So that's the IMU here. We have a crystal. We have a small I/O device, and then we have our PIC DSP. Now, it's very hard to show you guys the part number on this. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it. No, he's probably not going to show up. But what we have is our PIC DSP, and this is what they're using for all of the I/O. Now, if we take that, for instance, all of the I/O on that is handled by the STM32, whereas on this, it's all handled via that IC there. There's then a digital multiplexing IC here, and you've got some additional ICs for handling the I/O, or the audio, the video, etc., etc. But the big difference between these devices is the amount of hardware on board to be able to just make it work. Now, the MicroVector actually had an upgrade. It's not using the same SoC as the original one, and I'll decase the original one for you guys. Let me just hop him out. Believe it or not, I've been in this about 4 times today. Okay, so if we take the original Vector, you'll see that all of the basics are the same. This time it's using smaller crystals rather than using these large standard kind crystals. They're using smaller surface mount ones. The original Vector is using the 80 megs processor. The MicroVector is actually using an upgraded version, and that's using the PIC32 MX470, which is actually running at 120 megs. So it's actually a faster chip on the MicroVector than it was the Vector. Again, we have our IMU, and if we flip it over, you still have your DSP, our MUX chips over here, and then all of the other hardware. And the one thing to really notice about all of these Autopilots is the sheer amount of hardware that is needed for it to function. For instance, that IC here, for instance, is a ROM chip. because that's where all of the firmware is stored. It's not stored on the main PICs. It's actually stored on a separate ROM chip over here. On this one, I think it's probably located on the other side. Yeah, it's one of the 3 here, so I suspect it's that one there. Haven't looked at the numbers on it, but I suspect it is that one there. But it's just the amount of hardware on this compared to the Pixhawk. And this is where the costs were coming from when we are talking the price of the Vector versus the other equipment. Now, if we start talking about the price of the SoCs, for instance, just to bring you back up, the Pix 32 is about $5-6. That's what the cost of that SoC is on its own. If I compare that to the STM32F4, they're actually about $12. They're about twice the cost. However, you've then got to add in all of the additional hardware cost on these boards that you don't have on the Pixhawk-based system. So the real interesting thing with the Vector was, whilst it looked just like another Autopilot, which was just more expensive, the reality has been it is completely different. It really, really is. And it isn't comparable in many ways to those Autopilots or not. Now, the reality is they all did the same thing. You know, at the end of the day, this design has borne out, let's just say, and you could argue that this is PC and this is Mac in many ways. And it's quite a nice analogy for this, because we have a hardware design here which pretty much most Autopilots will run on with a tweak. Okay, there's some changes on pinouts and I/O and things like that, but for the most part, we have an Autopilot where everything will work. And now we have their custom hardware and custom software that work together to produce a solution. And again, so what you have is very much PC versus Mac. And that is where we ended up. Now, I've used the Vectors on many aircraft. Funny enough, this has only just been torn out of my Bixler for me doing the build I was doing the other day, which is the CUAV build. So I've used the Autopilot, the Vector, for many, many years. I've been a big fan of it. They have a real nice bit of software, and we're going to plug it in a minute. We'll plug it in and have a bit of reminiscence on it and have a look. And it really has been a very, very good Autopilot. But part of the problem here has been the fact that you have an industry growing with loads of cheap Autopilots, loads of free software. You know, if we take into account what you have is, we have a mass of board reference designs, the Pixhawk standard, the boards that are all being made to work with Betaflight, and then you've got free software. So for the hardware manufacturers, all they have to do is follow a specification and make their board work. For those who were using Vector, EagleTree have not only created their own hardware design, but they're then writing the software to go with that. And that's what you were paying for when it came to a Vector. You weren't paying just for the hardware. You were paying for a custom Autopilot solution. And it really was custom. You know, this isn't just another Pixhawk copy, another Autopilot ripoff, PX4 ripoff. You know, they genuinely were doing their own thing. And unfortunately, though, the market has not beat that out properly. So it's been very hard for them to get people to understand why this board costs 3 times as much as a cheap Autopilot off Banggood, and why you should pay for it, because you're not only paying for that board, you're paying for their software and their expertise as well. And that is the big thing with the Vector. And it is a massive shame it's ending. For me, it is a real shame. And it's going to end a custom Autopilot that really did do things a little bit differently to everyone else. And it isn't perfect, and I'll talk a bit more about that after I have a sip of tea. And there were some downsides to this system as well, and some of those downsides may have played along for the reason they're ending trading. But at the end of the day, what you had here was a genuinely unique system that was done from the ground up. So time for a sip of tea. If you've got any questions, guys, please do put them in the comments. I'm just going to check in on the comments. I'm going to check in on Facebook as well first to see if there is anything going on there. There's no comments anyway, so let's get onto the live stream. Right, okay, so let's have a look. Do you want to say it's because they went autopilot route and everyone else copied OpenPilot PX? Yeah, Gary, exactly. And correct. So, Sasha, I used that the predecessor 10 years ago. So the pick predecessor, Sash, I assume. I'm a Mac. Remember the ads Apple run? Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that is the interesting thing. Yeah, I think it's an interesting point, Type, and this, you know, Type's comment is, I'll put it up. You know, you can't, at the end of the day, you can't really sell 3 times higher price except if you are portioned for a Lamborghini Ferrari. And I think that's the problem in this industry. What you were paying for here was a total custom solution. The issue is that everyone was giving their software away. And that really has been the problem here. Because at the end of the day, for EagleTree to develop, they're not only having to develop hardware, they developed software to go alongside that hardware. And I think they really did struggle to get that message out there. And all people were seeing was $20, £20, £25 autopilots on eBay and Banggood. And I think that's where their problem has been. And the reality is, some people are going to fall to the wayside as a result of this open hardware standard. Now, that's not to say there can't be premium hardware. You know, the Cube is a classic example of that. The Cube is a classic example of how you can make premium, and I'm not going to say industrial, it's not industrial, but it's still premium compared to, say, the $20 autopilots and things like that. But you need to have something to be able to sell that off. So, for instance, the Cube is really well integrated into industry, agencies, all sorts of people using the Cube because it's built up a very good reputation. I think the problem was this autopilot, the Vector, the Micro Vector, was being sold to the same crowd as the people who are buying the cheap autopilots for the most part. Now, I don't mean the FPV dedicated crowd. I am talking about the fixed wing crowd primarily, because that's where this aircraft was autopilot was very much pushed for. And I think the problem is with the likes of iNav, with the likes of ArdraPilot, it's basically ended it for them. And it's very hard for them to make money when you're trying to compete with someone who is able to knock out a board for $25 and not have to worry about the software. And I think that's the problem. Catching up on the comments. Mr. Shady, good evening. How are you doing? It is a reboxing. It is. The thing is, versus low end, the 5 controllers, the Vector was a stunner. Let's face it. Built in OSD, Pace Cubes. Yeah, you know, and in its day, it was a stunner. It absolutely was. And there's part of this reason is it's failed as well, actually, Mark, and I'll talk about that. Every 2 weeks, a new beta flight firmware from Bill PA. I haven't seen this autopilot. Good evening, Bobo. How are you doing? Welcome. Bobdo, sorry. Bobbo. I'll get there in a minute. Most of the assets. Yeah. And this is about Mass Effect needs waypoints, mission opens. Yeah, they did add some stuff along the way. Now, one of the big issues, I'm going to take another sip of my tea before it goes cold. It's going cold already. One of the big issues with the Vector is its lack of compatibility with other systems. So, for instance, if we take a look, we do have all sorts of IOs on this. Let's get the lid for that one there as well. So you do have a UART, you know, and if you look down, you've got your motors, your motor M2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got your audio video, your USB, your bus, your UART. And whilst there was all this stuff, unfortunately, it wasn't compatible with off-shelf hardware. It all had to be used with EagleTree systems. So, for instance, the GPS. The GPS was their own GPS, and this is the V2. I've got a V1 and a V2 actually. And whilst it was a very nice and small GPS, it wasn't the greatest sensitivity, but also it was quite expensive as well. And you were paying, I'm sure it was like £100 I paid for one, on £80-90. Now, what we are going to do is we'll hop into this one. I've never been into this one. I actually have one I have opened before, but we will we'll hop into this one a little bit as well. This one is brand new. This one has never flown. Let me just get into him without, I don't want to damage him because it could be worth something now. Let me just get a blade on him. 2 seconds. Here we go. Okay. So, what we have is their own unique GPS. Let me just grab the nozzle. I'm just trying to find my nozzle one. It's disappeared. Oh, it's over there. Okay, so just to give you a size idea, this is the GPS off a NASA. And this is a here 2, in fact, that one is. So just to give you an idea of the actual shape and size. And yes, you know, one of the big problems was it was their own ecosystem, and it meant you all had to buy their own hardware. Now, if I just look, I can't remember how much it was. Now, they did make up to a version 4 GPS, I believe. Mine was the version 2. Product note found. I'm just trying to see how much it was. Here we go. Oh, 60 quid. You could get it for 60 quid. Well, it's not terrible, to be fair. A good GPS should be more than that. Now, if we hop him out, here too has a very big antenna. It has a massive ground plane, especially. Massive ground plane on the here too. It was very carefully tuned that way as well. Now, obviously, if we look inside, we have their unique GPS. And again, we have another pick, I think it is, on there. I'm trying to see. Yep. So we have another pick microcontroller on board. We have our backup battery. We have our small circuit. We have our compass. There will be our compass IC. I would guess it's that one. I don't think it's that one. And then we've got the small GPS antenna on the top. So again, it was it very much again was their own hardware. Very nicely made though as well. You know, when you do look at their hardware, it was very well put together overall. It really was. The board design is very nice. The overall hardware was good. The overall board quality was very good as well. So overall, you know, it was a good system, but it was unique, and that was part of the problem. So you weren't easily able to expand it at all. You know, you just weren't able to hook it up to any other equipment out there. And whilst there isn't a lot you would want to hook it up to, there was no MSP, there was no Mavlink, and they were the two big issues. Now, I don't know if part of that reason was simply because there wasn't enough processing to do it. You know, this is very much lower than we've got on the STM32F4s, 180 megs on them. 256 of RAM, 1 or 2 megabyte of storage, depending on what one you had. So this may have had some limits, but it is interesting, and it's been a fantastic autopilot, to be fair. It really, really has, and it's a massive shame to see them go. It really is. It doesn't mean, though, these stop working, because they continue to work, and we're going to plug one in now. I need a USB cable first, but they do still work. So for those who do own them, it's still a good autopilot. It still absolutely works as you would expect it to. This one, I actually drowned this in a plane crash, and it got very, very wet. If you look on the bottom of the board, you can actually see it. Can you see the corrosion around there? Now, I actually cleaned this one up, but that corrosion has come back since I cleaned it up. So it needs another clean up again, I think, that one. But yeah, overall, it's been a very good autopilot. So what we will do next is we'll hook it up and have a look for those who haven't seen the Vector software, because it's quite good. I haven't hooked one up for over 12 months, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to have a look. Let's have a look at the comments. Sasha, 7652. Yeah, 765 is a good autopilot. Very good. 765 you can't beat. You really can't. Let's have a look on Facebook. Any comments on Facebook? No comments on Facebook yet. No, I have a Facebook page, but I don't really use it very much for the channel. So I'm going to start building that up now as well. We're seeing ourselves live there. So before we hook this up and go on the software, if you guys have got any questions while I'm going through this, please do put them in. Tell me how the audio is, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, because we're not finished. It's not 100% right yet. We're not 100% sorted. There's 1 or 2 issues I need to resolve. Now I need to get myself a USB cable and an adapter, because I'm running my Mac and I'm running Windows on a Mac, which is always good fun. It works properly. So I need a USB-C adapter, because it's a Mac. I could plug it into the hub with the HDMI output is, but I'm not risking touching that because I could lose it. So what we're going to do first of all, we're going to open up the software. Oh yes, CAN servos would be very nice, Gary. Just waiting the software open, and then I'll put it on screen for you guys. The high-tech ones are CAN, if I remember. Okay, so let's put this up on screen. So it wants us to plug it in, so we're going to plug in the micro, is what we're going to go with. I'm going to make sure we got the connector the right way. Good, thank you, Sash. The firmware in your Vector needs to be updated. Okay. We need to do that then, don't we? We're updating the firmware then, it looks like. As I said, I haven't turned these on for a while. So it's updating now. It takes 1 to 2 minutes. We've got the LEDs flashing on the autopilot, as you can see. So it's telling us it's doing a firmware update. Put it where you guys can see it. Just wait for it to do its thing. Firmware update success. Now look how easy that was. Boom, and we are in. Now, if you guys haven't seen this before, this is the Vector software, and it is very good, to be fair. Let me just adjust it and get it where I want it. Mr. Shady, why did I stop using the Vector? This one was taken out to put a Pixhawk in, actually. To put in the CUAV. Other than that, I wouldn't have taken it out. It was simply because I needed an aircraft to try and autopilot in. I do love the Vector. It's one of the best autopilots out there. The problem is, though, now, it is getting on a little bit in the sense of I'm not using analog FPV on anything really much now either. So, okay, so taking a look at the software on this, I'm going to pop myself. I'm gonna leave myself off a minute to walk you guys through this. Now, you've got the configuration here on the one side. You've got flight controller RC setup, OSD setup, and if you ever wonder where some of that OSD, like the Betaflight one, has been come from, it's very much like this. You know, EagleTree have been doing this for a very long time now. They really have. You've then got advanced OSD setup, and you've got multiple pages of OSD. You've then got the Eagle Eyes waypoint setup, because they did add waypoints to it in the end. And they also did some things like 3D gates as well. If I just turn on that. So you've got waypoint setup in there too. And then you've got accessory setup as well, if using the buzzer. And I've got the buzzer somewhere, actually, which was the alerter, which was a really good bit of kit, actually. If you come across the alerter, it would flash an LED and buzz if you crashed, and it was a really good bit of kit. So if we go under the Vector flight controller and setup, whilst everyone complains about Autopilot being quite difficult, this really was very, very simple. You had your basic overview for your airframe, which you can change, and you can select your aircraft types. You've got your basic gains, which just worked out of the box for the most part. There was very little to do on one of these. You've then got your receiver status, receiver type, safety mode status for your failsafe, compass, and that really is the basics of it. You've got your RC configuration page, flight controller setup, and again, this is where you're able to set your speeds, your cruise speeds. Absolutely fantastic for flying wings. In fact, I'm probably going to put the Vector back into my flying wing because it's perfect for that. Absolutely perfect. You've then got advanced flight controller setup, and this is where you've got a lot more on the main gains and where you can play with stuff. Compass and sensor setup. Again, what you want it to do. Safety and nav, and there was always some great features around this for the return to home and the features like that, like S-Bus. And the support, your factory reset, save your configuration. And then you had the OSD. You got the basic OSD setup where you would do all of what you wanted it to show. And it really did have a huge amount of information because it was coming straight from the autopilot. You can cycle through the OSD screen, so you can say, I want more screens. So what you can do is click on, you could click on an area and turn on a function for it, and then click on an area and turn on, if I take where's pack voltage? You can see pack voltage is there. We could move that to there if we wanted to, or move that to there, or move it down to there. So we had all of the options we would come to expect from an autopilot available to us. So, it's fairly basic, straightforward, and just worked. And one of the big benefits was, ignore that, we don't want to do that, just how simple the main setup was. It really was. And it just made life very easy. You could put it in an aircraft, pretty much set it up, and it would fly great. And that was the best part about the Vector. It was a really good bit of kit like that. Now I'm just going to close that window. Put Facebook back up. I don't know if anyone's watching on Facebook. If you are watching on Facebook, say hello in the comments. Please do say hello. Let me just get back up to where I should be. 1 second. And really, that's it for the Vector. Great controller. Overall, fantastic at what it did. Big shame to see it end, but really, I think it's as much as it's reached the end of its hardware life as well as its software life. For fixed wing users, I think it was a great option. It really was. Hopefully, there'll be a community effort. Maybe it would be great to see it continue somehow, but it doesn't do anything that Autopilot doesn't, or PX4 doesn't either, and that's probably the problem. Or Betaflight, or iNav, CleanFlight, or whatever autopilot people are flying at the moment, because there's so many. Now, Sasha, what was that autopilot you said about earlier? What was the name of it? I saw you post. I'd be interested in looking at that one, because you said that one's using a PIC 32 as well, so that'll be quite an interesting one. But that is it on the Vector. It is coming to an end. Big shame, but overall, I think probably in the end, it's probably going to be very hard to continue it with the custom hardware and software and continue to develop it. You know, and open source has very much become the way forward on this stuff. Open source has very much shown that actually, you know, to be fair, open hardware or closed, doesn't have to be open, but with an open source flight stack allows a nice ecosystem to develop. And it does allow things to go on from there. And actually, it's quite nice, because that will actually lead me on to my next subject in a minute. Actually, before I do. So that's my little thing on the Vector. What do you guys think? Tell me if there's anything I've missed, if there's anything you think I should have spoke about on this. I'm going to adjust my chair. It's missing my back and it's hurting. Let me know if there is anything I'm missing on this. Please do tell me. We've got 13 people watching. I hope you are all well wherever you are, guys. Please do put some stuff in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you're not a subscriber, please do consider hitting that button. If you're on Facebook, please do hit subscribe. Please do say hello. Interesting with Facebook, it doesn't tell me who's watching, if anyone's watching. Now, I am using Caster today, which is going to be interesting to see how it goes. I'm using it so it streams to both YouTube and Facebook, so it's interesting to see how it behaves. There's a bit more delay in it, that I have noticed. It puts a bit more delay in the system than the other things will. So I'm just going to put a tweet on Twitter. Let's do that. Time for a thumbs up. Yes, hit the thumbs up. I need a button for that, don't I? I really do. Now, before I get on to the next subject, I will talk a bit about the audio. This is up and running. Yeah, it did. Oh, hello, Bruce. How are you doing? Blaming Dead. It's nice to see you up. Good morning, Bruce. But yeah, that's it on the Vector. Now, yes, I have this all up and running. It isn't set up properly yet. I've got to move it all around. Tonight is just a trial. I now have my audio unit up here. You guys can't see that. It is the PreSonus Studio 24C is the audio unit, and it is up there. Now, I have got a video going out on this. It's already filmed. But what I will say is this. The preamp in the PreSonus is not enough for the Rode pod mic. It just isn't. Because this is a dynamic microphone, I was expecting you to sound like Richard Burton or Lon Green. Unfortunately, Bruce, I probably still sound like me. Now, this isn't finished yet. It does need a tweak, let's just say. Part of the problem is the PreSonus has built-in preamps up to 50 dB, and it's just not enough to drive the Rode. The Rode needs more because it's a dynamic. It needs about 70 dB, so I'm going to have to get one of those cloud lifters or something like that. Now I can make it sound, Bruce, this mic isn't like some of the other mics out there that, let's just say, the Blue Yetis and all of them have a certain tone to them. I'm not going to say it's to make you more masculine, but it does have a certain tone to them. This mic doesn't. It's very mid-range is where this mic is at. I can tweak things in the equalizer. I just haven't done it yet, basically. Yeah, do you know what, Bruce? I thought about that. Funny you say that. I was thinking of making one. I really was, actually. Because a cloud lifter is like £150. I'm not buying a cloud lifter. But the DM1, which is the Dynamite preamp, is like 70 quid. And the Fet head is like 60 quid. And I'm just wondering whether to actually make one. It would be a nice little project. We'll have to see. So it is up and running, but it's not full. You know, the idea of this is for a few reasons. Hopefully it'll make life a little bit easier in some ways and not in others. In some ways, oh yes. Oh, now you are talking. That comment's going up on screen, ladies and gentlemen. That comment right there. What Bruce just said. Valve. Is there Valve microphone amps? There's there has to be, isn't there? There has to be a Valve mic preamp. Someone must be making one. Someone must. Please tell me. Keep you warm in winter too. Yeah. What's this? This is called the Warm Box. That's slightly ironic. Warm audio. What's this? Stress tone. Oh no, it's not. It's not got valves. I thought it had valves then. That would be very cool. That would be very, very cool. Valve mic preamp. Are there any images? Someone must. Oh, hello. Tube microphone preamp. 2-channel 2. Oh, hello. That looks interesting. So it's an LL7903. I wonder how much an LL7903 costs. That gotta be worth a look. That's a transformer. Now even I understand. That's the transformer. So where are the valves? It's not a valve. Phantom power. 48 volts. Yes. Input. Ah, here we go. Oh, sorry. So that's the input through a transformer. Oh, there they are. Hello indeed. So it's using VT2Bs, VT1As. That's got to be worth a look. Yeah, yeah, we'll have to see. I do like the age. Oh, now look. That's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, someone's distracted me on valve-based microphone amps. Oh, it's modularized. Look at that. Okay, that's one for another live stream. So, yes. Okay, forgot what else I was going to talk about now. Cool. We like that. We like that a lot. 3-terminal regular. I love it. Off-base preamp with a 3-terminal regular. That is very nice, isn't it? Very cool. It's definitely something I'm going to look into. Now I have done it. So yeah, I need to tweak this all. It's not tweaked. It's still playing. Overall, it's getting there. But like all things with audio, it will take some time to get it perfect. It's not going to be overnight. There's a bit of tweaking to be done, just like everything else. Okay, so that is enough of this flight controller. Next, I wanted to talk about two things. One thing very quickly, DJI have announced the new firmware for the Mavic. Well, the new firmware is for the smart controller that allows it to work with the Mavic Air 2. So you can now order the smart controller and it will work with the Mavic Air 2. Yes, it costs almost the same price as a Mavic Air 2, but for the guys who already use it and had it, the firmware's out there, you can use it. Now, there are some issues updating. And these aren't new. There have been issues updating the smart controller ever since it was released. And the basics are, do it via Assistant 2 for PC or Mac. Don't do it via the inbuilt firmware update. It won't work. It'll probably hang around 90 to 99%. Use the Assistant 2 for PC and Mac and it should update fine. It should update okay from there. Now, before I get on to the next subject, guys, if you've got any questions, please do put it in. I'm going to talk a little bit about PX4. I want to talk about a little thread that we were shouting about the other day. It's quite interesting. I spoke a little bit on Friday, and I'm going to be doing a video actually on Autopilot versus PX4 from a user point of view. Now, it's not biased in any way. I'm actually going to show which is easier to set up as a user out the box. And actually, I haven't done the video yet, and my bets are that PX4 will actually win, because we're going to use Mission Planner, obviously, for Autopilot, and we're going to use Q Ground Control for PX4. Now, yes, I can use Q Ground Control for both, but really, Mission Planner has been pushed towards Autopilot. PX4 is very much pushed towards Q Ground Control. So there is going to be a video walking through PX4 and Autopilot, and I'm going to just take you through which one is a little bit easier to set up out the box. And the reality is, I think PX4 will win, actually. I do think PX4 will win that little argument, especially the way Autopilot has got. Now, I've got a video going live this week, which is the first video for the Here 3. I have filmed the first one, which is the setting up of the Here 3 and configuration, and part 2 is going to be looking at RTK. I do now have a Windows PC. I have installed Windows on my Mac. Ta-da! So I am windowed up again. I had Windows 10 on this before. However, there was a nasty crash and it lost everything on my Mac drive and the PC drive as well. But I am back up and running, so I have Windows on my MacBook, which means I can actually get out and test the RTK and show that as well. And that's going to be coming in the video in the near future as well. There's the first video is going to show the setup of the Here 3, and it's as much a tutorial on how to set it up. I take a little bit of a look at the hardware. I have really done that video already, actually, but I've gone back and done it again. And that one will go out the middle of the week. I have today finished the video on this bench multimeter. Finally, that is the one which I had filmed with Premiere Pro. When I was ill about a month ago, I took a 1-month trial of a 7-day trial of Premiere Pro and started the edit for that on the trial with the plan to export the finished bit of that edit out into another bit of software back to whatever I chose, because I was evaluating both Premiere Pro and Resolve at the time, using both. And whilst Resolve has a free version I was already using, I wasn't 100% happy with the free version. I was getting some random issues, and I was trying Premiere Pro, but I ended up taking a 7-day trial. did the main edit, got ill, and that's the week I couldn't come on the show with Gary and the gang. And the 7-day trial expired. And my edit, a fly just landed on the lens of that camera then. That edit was stuck. I couldn't open it. I couldn't export it. I couldn't do nothing. Now, I am a paid-up member of Creative Cloud for the photography package, so I get Lightroom and I get Photoshop. Adobe, though, were not willing to even help me export the project I'd spent a bit of time editing. And I'd spent like an hour or two messing around with it. And they had no interest at all. I was said, can I have a 1 hour extension on the trial? And they went, we can't do that. I said, can I one day? All I want to do is open the project, file, export, job done. But no, they weren't even willing. I went through the phone with them, and frankly, if I'm honest, I was really pissed off with their attitude of the whole thing. So much so, I bought Resolve after that. They just pushed me straight into the arms of Resolve. And thank God they did, because it was the best move I've made. Because since upgrading to Resolve Studio, and to be fair, there's a grumpy old man who's been telling me to do that. Since doing it, all of my problems have gone away. So far, touch wood. All of my major problems have gone. Sorry, I hit the mic. No problems at all now. But I was still left in the position where I couldn't get my footage out. So I've been busy and I hadn't had a chance to do that. And in the end, I ended up taking out another trial under another email address. And they could have actually told me that on the phone, but I ended up setting up a fake email address and doing another 7-day trial. Then I was able to import and export and get the footage out. So I've finally been able to do it. Finally edited it. Finished the desk bit of it today because I hadn't done the face to camera bit. And it was done. But to be fair, Adobe, I was just astonished. Absolutely not interested in any shape or form, even as a paid subscriber. As Type B said, 7 days is not an offer of serious trial. It's new software, but a great way. Yeah, and what really annoyed me, a great way to get away with that attitude. Yeah, it was they weren't willing to extend it. They weren't able to do anything, and I tried to explain to them the issue, and they just were not interested at all. So for that, I think it was not just after a week. I actually liked Premiere. To be fair, I liked it. I had no problems with it at all. I was starting to get into it. I did a nice edit. You know, I came from Final Cut Pro to Resolve, so they all have their quirks. But the NLEs, once you get used to one, you sort of get used to the other, and you're just looking for where bits are more than anything. I loved Final Cut Pro. I still love Final Cut Pro. But I'm no longer using Macs. I still have a MacBook, but I don't do any of my editing on this. I'm now back to PC, so I had to choose a solution that worked. So Resolve all the way. Resolve Studio, fantastic, but they just weren't interested. Absolutely weren't interested at all. But anyway, I finished the edit. The video is done. It's ready to rock and roll. That I've just got to watch it before I export it. Only if I found Microsoft Movie Maker earlier. Yeah, and iMovie is the same. iMovie is bloody fantastic. Absolutely fantastic as a video editor. It really is. There's some really good stuff. I've not ever tried Vegas. I'm just checking Facebook while I'm thinking. I've never tried Vegas at all. I don't know what it's like. I'm not been one of those guys. But for me, it's nice. I can do my 10-bit stuff. Although the irony is, since having the new software, I've moved away from SD recording because I'm recording everything now via the ATEM into straight into OBS. You know, all of my videos now are being recorded straight into OBS. So the irony is, I've got more capability, but I'm doing less. But we will see how long that lasts. We will see how long that lasts. You know, there's some options. If only if Vegas was great before Max rooted it. Yes. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? So the other thing I was going to mention was just this comment, and you know, and this is quite interesting because this is the latest war that's going on at the moment, and I was going to mention it. Now, Gary has been very much involved in this for a long time, and was around the last time the war was on. Let's have a look if I can actually find it. And it's actually a comment from the PX4 team. I'll just find it first of all. 2 seconds. Here we go. Anyone on the stream ordered a 3090 this week? Just waiting down, looking for it. It's interesting. Sometimes comments disappear. I wonder if the thread has gone. I wonder if the thread has disappeared. Ah, no, I found it. Okay. Now, there's a couple of comments on this I put. I'm sorry. Well played. Now, okay, here's the comment. Now, one of the guys who's Raymond, let me put myself up so you guys can see me as well. Raymond Roach, who's heavily involved in the PX4 team, was just putting up about talking about the ring drone, and I don't know how it got onto this, but someone dropped on. I think it was KF actually who did it. Kevin Flincher, if you don't know who Kevin is, a good guy. He brought it up about the drone code stuff that all went down and everything. And he just asked what people's perception was. And, you know, in one of the comments, I think it was in KF's, given the lack of data, pricing is crazy. There was a comment where he asked people's perceptions. And I just put my comments on it. And there's a lot of people come up with the same thing, actually. And it's very much around this current rewriting of history that seems to be going on in the open source autopilot industry is probably the term to use. You know, obviously we have PX4 and Autopilot, and Autopilot's been around a very long time, as has PX4. And, you know, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of another. I think that the biggest difference really between the two from a user point of view is the simplest way to understand this is, whilst PX4 is open, it's very much funded by big business, is probably a term in the sense of Autopilot is supported by its community. There are donations that go in to fund Autopilot. However, Autopilot has a very simple rule as part of its open source license. If you take Autopilot and modify it for your use, so you make it do something specific that you need it to do, the license Autopilot is handed out under means you are free to use it, but you must feed back all changes for them to put back in if they want to. So you must, if you make a change, so say you develop something that's quite cool and you think, you put it in Autopilot, you get the source and you put it in. The Autopilot license is that you must share it back. And the reason for that is it means that every little benefit, everyone benefits from it. So every little change that's cool and good and one company does, if they use it, goes back into the pot and everyone can take advantage of that. However, PX4 has a different licensing system, and the licensing system is that you can take it away with you and modify it, and you don't have to feed that info back. Now, there are some benefits and downsides to both systems. So, for instance, from a developing a stable autopilot point of view, the Autopilot method is by far better because everyone takes a copy of it, modifies it, and improves, say, how stable it is. That gets fed back, everyone benefits, then the next person takes their mods and goes, ooh, I can tweak that to make it even better. And you're building bricks on the wall is the easiest term to use. So every brick is an improvement. So every little change improves things. Sometimes it sends it backwards, but that's just the way software is. But basically, everyone benefits, and everyone benefits big style. Whereas with PX4, if you have it and it doesn't really have a very stable flight stack, and it didn't for quite a long time, in my opinion, it really wasn't that great. I then take it and modify it and improve it massively, but I don't share that. So someone else takes it and improves it a little bit, and they don't share that. And everyone takes it and improves it in different ways, but doesn't feed it back in. Therefore, it's never making steps forward. Now, what you do get, though, is people who want to share stuff back do so. So it does get a step forward, but with Autopilot, it's part of the licensing requirement. Now, there is a lot more to it, as Gary is rightly saying. The code was rubbish until they fixed it, and it wasn't great for a long time. I've flown PX4 a while back, and it was like, ooh, this is a bit all over the place. Then there is the military use aspect, because Autopilot doesn't allow it for military use, whereas PX4 does. And you now have PX4 and PX4 Enterprise, or whatever they're calling it, which is their, off improved record arm as well. We noticed, Bruce. And that's really the two fundamental differences. It was a very different approach. So PX4 sort of went, right, we're going to give you the basic building blocks, and you can take those building blocks and turn it into whatever you want for your system. And if you create cool and interesting features, you don't have to give them back to us. Whereas Autopilot is, we're going to develop it as much as we can, but if you develop something that's cool and interesting, we want you to bring that back so everyone can benefit, because it's a community-based software. Now, that isn't to say you can't do stuff and protect your own IP by doing it outside of Autopilot, but if you were making changes to the Autopilot stack, then you needed to feed that back. And, that's the basics, the very basic differences between them. There's a whole lot of politics around it. But anyway, as Gary quite rightly said earlier, there was a massive change with drone code siding with PX4, and PX4 really has got dragged off into a commercial element now, and it feels very much that PX4 is being driven by its commercial partners, because if you take a look at PX4 is part of drone code, which is now part of the Linux Foundation, and it is all big company names driving it. There isn't so much the small community element to it anymore, in my opinion, and I could be wrong on that. But that's how it feels for me. And, we were asked, what is the public perception? I'm trying to find the comment. Smash and grab from other people's hard work. It was, and it was a smash and grab by industry. And I think that's really what upset people as well. If we just look at PX4 a minute. Okay. If we just look at, oh God, PX4. Open source. And if we look at the maintainers, we've got the people. Obviously, you got Lawrence and all of these, and there's some fantastic people involved. This isn't so much about the people. Contributors, is it under contributors? No, there's a lot of people on there, but community overview. Actually, if we look at drone code's where it is. If you look at drone code is, so I got to try and get to drone code, because all that happens in the UK comes up with the licensing for the UK. Here we go. So under drone code houses PX4, Mavlink, MavSK, and Q ground control. Our members. So if we click on the members, and what you have here, what you have here is a lot of very big names. If you look at the top, the platinum member, Arturian. And I think this is where a lot of the perceived issues are coming from. If you look under gold, it's Microsoft, NXP, Unique, 96 boards. You know, silver, and then you got 3DXR map. But look, you know, these are the people who are driving the direction of the autopilot system and software. And don't get me wrong, people can still contribute. It's still open source. But this seems to be where the issue is. And this whole change with drone code and the whole smash and grab, as Gary put it, has left a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. You know, and my comment was, you know, PX4 does not feel or fell. Unfortunately, that's a classic Twitter mistype. A community-driven solution now at all. It appears to be driven by stakeholders' commercial interests. You know, and you know, this is the problem it faces now, and this is where it ended up. So it's an interesting situation. You know, there's some fantastic people involved. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's an interesting piece of software. I'm going to be looking at it a lot closer. I'm trying to find the comment that I responded to. I'm trying to see. Okay, so I get it. The community. Also, I'm legit curious of what the perception is. Being on the inside is hard to judge, you know, and that's where, you know, that's where the comment was, and yeah, it's interesting. So we're gonna have to see. We're going to have to see. You know, Autopilot isn't perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say it is. It has its issues in itself. It has some of the fantastic people in the world supporting it. It also is. It's a beast, and in some ways it needs clipping a little bit here and there, I think, now personally. But you know what they say, opinions are like bottoms or arseholes. We've all got one. So that is the thing. And that is my very short take on it. So if there's any questions on that, guys, please do let me know. I'm just checking the Facebook stream to have a look. I don't think anyone's watching. I don't think anyone's watching on Facebook. It's not working. It's on there, but it's probably something I'm going to have to push. I don't know. Does Facebook share it out to everyone then? I don't know how Facebook works. Gary's the expert on Facebook. Gary is by far the expert on Facebook. He really is. Does it show live for anyone? Does it share it to anyone? Does it just hide it on my page only, I wonder? You've got watch. Oh no, it does show under watch, so interesting. Okay. So it is showing stuff, so I will be streaming somewhere. I will be streaming somewhere. But I don't know. Does it actually? Zuckerberg is watching. Zuckerberg's always watching. I don't know. Like if I show you this, we're restreaming Facebook. Someone flying FPV. Look at that. That's Joshua Bardwell. He's not live, is he? No, it's not live. Okay, so, and if I go under live, what does it show for mine then? Let's see. We're live right now, so if I click on it, oh, we got audio. Let me turn the audio off. Woo. That's me looking at my own. You are watching a live video. It doesn't tell me if anyone's watching. Does that mean no one's watching? Very strange. I need to understand Facebook more. I really do. I really don't. Okay, we'll have to figure that out. We really, really will. Okay, guys. That is about it. I just wanted to do a bit of a homage to the Vector. Today I've spent some time trying not to kill myself, testing switch mode power supplies with the oscilloscope and the... Where's it gone? over there, the differential probe. We've been doing that, just trying to get some stuff in place, ready. If you think YouTube requirements are high for watch time, Facebook is not really okay. Interesting. I've been doing the differential probe, and I've been checking the switch mode power supply. I've been trying to diagnose a damaged power supply. Still having trouble actually figuring out why it won't start up. It's a PC80X one. Quite an interesting design as well, because it's about 3 different switch mode power supplies in one. And I'm not getting any voltage on the 5-volt VSB rail, which is the continuous rail. I think that the switching IC has failed, but we'll have to see. It could be a capacitor issue, but I don't have them. I want to get, I'm going to try and strip another one and see if it's a similar circuit and just get my head around a few things on that. StreamYard tells you. That's interesting. So StreamYard tells me, does my software, now we're streaming to Facebook Live, show metadata? No. Okay, so the metadata is that. No, it doesn't. See? It's interesting, isn't it? It just doesn't show. Got a chat overlay. It's interesting because I'm using Caster. Or Castar. Open chat app. That doesn't seem to work. For the differential. I'm not even commenting on that, Gary. I hope you had a fantastic birthday, by the way. Yeah, we're streaming in. We're streaming at 4 kilobytes a second, but there's no data. Just no data at all. Really weird. Really strange. Maybe it's stuck. Behave. That's interesting. I'll tell you what the issue is. Let me just go try something. I was looking. That's interesting. I was looking at it as the wrong person. I was looking at it. It's interesting. I'm wondering if I need to not stream on the page and stream on my... I have a separate Facebook account for the channel, and there's a couple of reasons for that. And I'm wondering, do I need to stream from the Facebook account or the channel page? It's something I've been trying to get my head around. Now I'm actually streaming to the channel page, but what I don't know, if it behaves like you would expect it to, if you get my drift. I don't know, does it show it to other people as well? Perhaps it won't. Perhaps that is the problem. Perhaps if I'm streaming to the main page, then it won't put it out on Facebook Live. It will only stream it on the page itself. So that's interesting. And perhaps that's something I need to do. I don't know, what does yours do, Gary? Does it stream to the account or to the page? Because I know you do this a lot more than I do. Now I'm lost. I'm lost as well. It's Facebook. It's best not to understand anything. Yeah. Very mission accomplished then. Yeah, it really is. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens on that one anyway. If there's any questions, guys, please do put them in the comments. I don't think there was anything else I was going to add. As I said, I've been finishing off the couple of videos. We've got that coming. I'm finally beginning to catch up. I'm going to have a look at a valved amplifier. Definitely going to be looking at a valved amplifier. That, Gary, I like the idea of a lot. I'm trying to think. The upcoming videos is going to be the differential probe, but I just want to... It's been a while since I've done any proper switch mode PSU repair. I want to get the video up as well of, is this good content? No, it isn't. That's a question I ask myself every day, Bruce. Is this good content? And on that note, we will probably call it a day there. Now, before I do, I just want to say, if you haven't seen Bruce's latest video, please do check it out and show your support for the two lads. Live on the page and buried on the Facebook stream. Please do check out Bruce's video, and please do show your support for the two lads. It's getting a bit messy with this whole thing. Is the Seagull product also going out? I'm purchasing. Is the Seagull product also going out? Is the Seagull product also going out? Can you just, Jeff, what do you mean? As in, is it ceasing production, or? As far as I'm aware, Seagull is continuing. I'll just check that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was Bill PA. Seagull make motors. Buddha's shocker. Yeah, it's Bill PA I'm looking for. Yeah, so on Bruce's, please do check out Bruce's latest video and show the support for the guys. It really is a shit state of affairs. So, as someone who's done a lot of investigations over the years, I'll put my take on it as this: an investigation doesn't mean you have to interrogate every person. If you have an allegation, if you have an allegation, you can decide if you need to investigate it further or not. So an investigation is looking at the facts. So you can have an investigation and you can look at the preliminary info and decide if it needs to be taken further. And nothing ever is to say that every investigation must turn over every stone in the world. What you look at is, as Bruce quite rightly says in his video, what Bruce explains is an investigation. It's not even filtering at that point. You know, if you were to take that situation, a question has been raised, they did a number of inquiries, if they had done them, which they didn't. And then at that point you would go, I don't feel there's any need to take this matter any further, end it, close the door. You know, this could have been a 5-minute thing. Yet they've chosen not to do that. And it's interesting. It really is. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see where that one ends up. But please do watch his video. Please do check it out and show some support for the lads as well, because it's not good. You know, at their age, they're being treated like they've done something wrong when they haven't. And in fact, they went out of their way to fly somewhere where they were going to be safe and going to get advice and help and support. And now they're being punished for doing the right thing. And that's just wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong. It really is. Now, worth checking it out. The only other thing I'll mention quickly is, if anyone out there has ordered, who is watching this, if you're a 3080 order or 3090 order, I would certainly only be ordering the Founders Edition cards right now. I'd be very careful on partner cards. There seems to be some interesting issues showing up, to say the least. But what has come to light is that the partners have only had about 2.5 to 3 weeks to develop their cards. And I'm sorry, but that is not long enough to develop a card from scratch. So what you're seeing on the shelves today has been very much rushed out of the door. It's been pushed as quickly as they can, and you're going to see a number of revisions on these cards in a short period of time. And you're going to see these cards get improved massively, massively, massively. So if you are someone that's interested in buying a 3080, 3090, hold off. Hold off. Bruce has got his 2000 NF capacitors to put across the back. Yeah, I don't think it's as much in that, Bruce. You know, there's a lot of talk around these caps. And there's a lot of talk at the cores. I suspect it's power rail overall, not just the switching noise off the back of the IC there. I think it's part of the problem. But there are people with some designs that are working. I think you're getting a combination of really bad binning on the chips. So some stuff is probably making through that it shouldn't. For instance, remember on the 3080s, it's all binned. They go through and test them and seeing how stable they are, and if it doesn't make it as a 3080, it'll go out as a 3070. But there isn't the 3070s at the moment, so pretty much as much hardware as they can has been going into the pipeline for 3080, and I think that's probably driving issues alongside, as Bruce says, the capacitors on the back and the high ASR of the POS caps. And the overall design of some of these cards is probably contributing to it. The fact they were designed in 2 to 3 weeks, it's far too fast. Yeah, it's certainly, for anyone like us, Bruce, there's easy fixes, but that's if it isn't the power rail. Someone needs to delve into these cards that are crashing, and it is a strange situation as well, because you have to remember, this is the boost clock as well. This isn't the standard clock. It runs fine at the standard clock speeds. And for the guys who don't really understand what I'm talking about, they sell these cards with, the base clock they say is 1200 megahertz. The main clock goes up to 1500 megahertz. Then it has this boost clock up to 1800 megahertz, and it's basically sanctioned overclocking is what it is. However, your specification is 1500 megahertz. So people are getting crashing in the boost clock at, say, 1700, 1750 megs, 1800 megs. But really, your card is only guaranteed to function at 1500. And while some people are complaining because there's one card that works perfectly fine in the boost clock speeds, and there's other cards that don't, the reality is, and the way NVIDIA have designed these cards, and it is bonkers really when you think about this, is you have a card which is designed to work up to 1500 megahertz guaranteed, and they allow you to go to 1800 megahertz boost clock. It should, though, be fully stable up to 1800 megahertz. But what they do is they put this little thing in their back pocket saying, oh, no, it's only rated for 1500. So guys are getting crashes at 1680, 1700, 1750 megahertz, and that's where all of the noise is coming from. But from a warranty point of view, none of these guys will really have any ground to stand on as long as their card is stable at the maximum standard clock speed of, say, 1500. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but that's where they're going to be at. Bruce, there should be some cheap 3080 shortly. Get me hot again. I'm happy to run cheap 3080 with an underclock because it still heaps fast enough. Yeah, and that's the funny thing. For the video editors, see, you can take 200 megs off. We don't care. I'm looking to upgrade my card. I've got a 2060 Super OC, and the reason I want to upgrade it isn't render time. It's just not got enough RAM. It needs more VRAM. I've only got 6 gig of RAM, and I need 8. 8 gig is what I need, so I'm going to have to upgrade mine, but I'm going to be looking at the 3070 is where I'm thinking to land at. There's no pricing on the 3070 yet. We think it's going to be between $350 and $500, but the 3080 is 500. Is the 3080 £500 right there? RTX 3080. Let's just have a look. I can't remember what the cost is in the UK. I'm not sure if that's about 500. No, it isn't. Sorry, the 3080 is 779, so about £800. That's right. Get a cheap 1080 Ti, 2080 Ti with 11 gig of RAM. Yeah, I've been looking for cheap 2080s, Bruce, as well. I've been keeping my eyes out on eBay. That's what I have been doing. So in the UK price, for instance, the 3080s are going to be about 700. Yeah, they're ranging between 700 and 800 pounds. That's the range for the 3080. So the 3070 is believed to be around 500. That's what the belief is. I reckon it might come in a bit more than that. It might be close to 550, maybe 6. Yeah, I've seen that, Bruce, as well. Yeah, the 3080 20 gig, that's upset a few people as well, that one. The 3060 could be an interesting card as well, but we don't know. The thing to remember is the 3070 is said to basically be the same performance as a 2080 Ti. And whereas the 2080 Ti was over £1,000 card, you're going to be getting that for around £500. So anyone who's got a 2080 Ti, it's already got to be worth less than £500 because the brand new equivalent is only going to cost £500. So really, we should be seeing 2080 Ti's fall around the £300 mark, maybe £350. That's where we should be. Don't forget Big Navi. AMD. Yeah, well, obviously we're going to have the 5,000 AMD Ryzen launches to come, and Big Navi as well. It's an interesting because 2080 Ti owners are going to lose so much money. It's insane. It's because you're going to get a £500 card as the same performance. There are people trying to sell 2080s today for a £700-800, and you're just going, really? Why would I buy that? Why would I buy that? But yeah, looking at the prices, Gigabyte 749. I wonder if these guys have got any prices up. I'm just looking on overclockers.co.uk, and I'm wondering if they've got any. Oh, they've got pricing up for the 3070s. No, they haven't. They've got placeholders up for the 3070s, but no pricing. Oh, yes, there is. Yeah, they are. It's crazy, Bruce. Amazon, there's loads of full price 2080 Ti's on Amazon, over £1,000. There's vendors with this stuff on stock. 559 in the UK, the 3070 is looking at. 3070 dual 8 gig. 3070 ROG 8 gig DDR6. Let's have a look at this one. Asus, how much is that coming up? 499. 499. Wow. And have they got anything in place for the... Let's have a look if there's anything in place. Hurry, only 5 left. I got a feeling Bruce, you'll have 5 left for a little bit of time. Now, there's no placeholders and nothing in place yet for the 3060s. Now, interesting, on this website, GeForce RTX 2080 Ti, okay, this is a genuine vendor, and there's still 10 plus in stock. It's a featured sale. Look, put that up, £1,099. £1,099. Oh, no, not doing that. How much is the 3080? 719. Pre-order. Yeah, not one in stock. Crazy. But yeah, we're going to have to see. I'm certainly not rushing out. I'm not going to get anything for my card. My 2060, if I get 150 quid, it'll be a bonus. And I paid a lot of money for that. A lot of money for that at Christmas. But that's it. Like, it's still very good. I can get away with it. I just get random errors. If I can get a used 2080 on eBay, I have been looking on eBay. It's quite funny because there's some cracking prices as well. Let's just show you eBay. Put myself up in the corner. If you look for RTX 2080 Ti. Oh, that one's £1. 675. So that is literally £25 cheaper. Roughly. Say 30. Okay, let's be generous. For 50 quid more, you can get a brand spanking new 3080. And that's a new listing, look. Opened, never used. And that's someone by Zodiac. I wouldn't be buying a Zodiac card, would you? 28 Founders Edition, 749, never going to happen. £700, never going to happen. 650, never going to happen. 700. You know, these guys are just, they're going to have the shock of their lives when you can buy the same card for 500 quid. Unlikely to have been used. Yeah. Should we have a look at the listing on that one then, Bruce? Look, let's have a laugh then. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong one. Let's just have a look. What are they saying? 5 months. Okay, right there. Opened, never used. Okay. Gotta love eBay. Zodiac G-Food ratio. 5 months old. Comes in excellent condition. Only used for light gaming. Sure. Yes. Yes. Light gaming. But yeah, these guys are asking big money. Like, they're never going to get it. They're never going to get it. You know, he's at 510, but I still wouldn't pay that for a used card that could fail at any moment. You know, these cards need to be £300 to be worth it. If you take into account the 3070 is going to be the same, virtually the same performance as a 2080 Ti, and it's going to cost between £5 and £550 to buy a used 2080 Ti with no official warranty. Even if there is a warranty, a used card that could fail, you don't know its history, it's got to be £300. It's got to be 300 quid, no more than that. No more than that. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. It's interesting. Look at that. That's that's 3 bids. So yeah, you know, there's no great deals at the moment. If we do buy it now, right, and then price low to high, be interesting to see what comes up. Here you go. 635 quid with water block. So that's heavily modified. 675. Yeah, people are off their chumps. I wonder if anyone is selling a 3080. Let's just see. I wonder if anyone is. Click and collect. Oh, I can get one. Let's have a look. Is there anyone selling a genuine 3080? Like, here we go. Here we go. One of these. Look, 12. He's asking £1,200 for 3080. 1,200 quid. This is the scalpers, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you don't sell it. I hope you get stuck with it and have to sell it at a loss. Are any of these got bids on? £1,700 someone wants for one. Now, so that's all of the UK ones. £2,500 someone's asking. So what we got here? NVIDIA. None of these are Founders Editions though, are they? If you notice that, there's no Founders Editions here at all. These are all a third partner cards, and I wouldn't be touching any of these with a barge pole right now. People were bidding up the scalpers cards in tens of thousands. Good lads. You'll save this pain. Yeah. And the thing is, these are all partner cards which we know are having problems right now. So I'd be, yeah, you know, my piece of advice on this is, even if, not that anyone will take my advice on this, but even if you consider on a hold off, if you're getting a Founders Edition, okay, go for it. But third-party cards, let's wait and see what happens on these. It's not looking good at the moment. It really isn't. And there are some issues coming ahead. So anyway, guys, we've been going a bit. Hopefully this has worked out okay. I need to tweak all of this and adjust it all. The unit is up there, the PreSonus. You can't see, I can't reach the camera to turn it around. But the PreSonus is up there. I am going to have to boost it. Is the audio level okay, by the way, like this? Because what I'm actually doing, and I do explain this in my other video, what I'm doing is it's going into the PreSonus, which I've dropped it off maximum a tad, and I'm then adding 3.5 dB in OBS. So OBS is actually pushing the signal up for me instead of using the preamp to do it, basically. Just looking at the comments just to see. But it you know, I quite like. It's quite a nice setup. It does hurt my neck a little bit. I will say that, having to lean forward for the microphone, or you know, you're talking. I'm not quite as animated as I usually am. Yeah, that's the problem. You do get quiet real quick. So, need to see more cheer? Try overhead boom. Try an overhead boom. Yeah, this is the problem, because there's no amplification here. You know, the second I do that, it's quiet. It will quieten off really, really quickly. And then it's not so bad. The problem is, you know, obviously with a microphone, you know, when you're speaking straight into it, you're getting the best quality, or the audio to the side. But yeah, there's some playing to be done yet. Anyway, guys, I'm going to figure out now how to end this. I'd like to thank you all for sticking with us. No, it's not bad, but just now. Yeah, there's a pop filter built in, but it's still, they reckon it needs one. They reckon it needs one. I have found it's a little better if I talk across it rather than into it. If I talk across it, it's not so bad. I don't know what the level is like there if I talk across. It has got a pop filter built in, but most people who are using it are putting a head on it as well. An additional filter. Never. So, but yeah, overall, it's getting there. We need the preamp to knock it up a touch. But yeah, we're going to have to see. We are going to have to see. Anyway, guys, look, if you're supposed to put your lips against the mic and talk about sexy like it's cool. You don't want me doing that, Bruce. No one wants to hear it like this. It's cold. So we're going to end this one. We're going to get it over with. So thank you very much for watching. If you're not subscribed to the 12 of you are watching, please do consider hitting that button. I really do appreciate everyone's time. Please do give the video a like as well. If you haven't done it, please do hit it. And it does help with the engagement on the new channel too. I'm now, but we saw the chair. I'm now, yeah, you can't see the chair tonight. There's the chair. The chair is still here. The secret lab. So I'm going to now I've got to figure out how you end the stream. Now I know how to do it from the software, but I don't know how to do it everywhere at the same time. So we're going to have to go into the window of the software. I'm going to talk. I know how to do it on YouTube, so I'm going to hit the YouTube, cut the microphone cable. Yes. Stay safe. Good evening and goodbye.